This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Coffee with Kenobi, show number 378. We are your spoiler-free place for Star Wars discussion, analysis, and rhetoric. I'm your host, Dan Z, bringing you part 2 of our conversation of Chapter 16 of The Mandalorian, The Rescue. This is part 2. You heard part 1 earlier this week on Monday, talking about the first half, but it's such a blockbuster episode, and we were going to go on 2 hours, and I didn't want to produce a 2-hour show the week of Christmas because it's very, very difficult to do that, along with taking care of stuff with your family and friends and embracing this wonderful holiday season. So we are, as promised, sharing with you part 2 of our conversation. We're going to take it through basically the arrival on the Imperial Star Destroyer, the fight with Moff Gideon, of course, that electric, exciting ending. So many emotions. So let's jump right into it. I'm returning into the conversation with myself, Tom Gross, and Cory Clubb. Here we go. We are back, and we just talked about the dramatic, near fatal confrontation between one Dark Trooper and the Mandalorian. Then the doors open, and we see Moff Gideon with the Darksaber extended, and a little bit of sort of bartering between the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, and Moff Gideon. You know what? You can take the Darksaber, just get out of here. And he says, you know what? I have everything I need. I wanted the child's blood. This child's blood is going to help to restore order to the galaxy. And I don't know about you, Cory, but the first thing I thought of is, okay, here's some seeds for what happens in The Rise of Skywalker with Palpatine. To me, anyway. It's not been confirmed, but that's just my assumption.
Oh, no, I think everybody goes there. I mean, obviously, right? So it's interesting, too, like I said before, we have two sides of the coin, right? We see that we always seem to look at the rebel side. They're a tough group trying to, get back to the Empire who's overbearing and stepping down on them. And we got that first sequence between the pilot and Cara Dune's character, both had led losses. But here we are at another level where I think Moff Gideon really believes that, hey, I'm full Empire. I'm drank the Kool-Aid, the dark Kool-Aid, and I'm all in. And this is what's going to restore the balance of power to the galaxy. And because we always seem like we've heard that Jedi side of things, right? Restoring balance to the Force. And this is a different perspective. This is what Moff Gideon believes. And as viewing this for the first time, I've believed him in a sense of like, oh, okay, he's got what he wants. He doesn't need the child anymore. He's gonna make this right, and this is gonna be over. He's gonna leave. He's kind of a coward. I always felt like he's kind of a coward a little bit. He let everything else do his dirty work for him, and that's not necessarily the case. We see in the next kind of sequence, but I like this exchange. I think it was nice to see his side of things and get to know Moff Gideon a little more.
Tom, what do we learn from this confrontation? And you can talk about the fight too, the actual fight too, because I think there's some important stuff there. But is there anything that we learn about either of these characters through this conversation and confrontation?
It's a good question, because I was almost convinced that he was going to let him go. And what it made me think about was how Din Djarin is used to working with the people in which he makes deals with. He sees that as honor. Boba Fett makes the, hey, we owe you, we're going to do this. And so there's an honor code that the bounty hunters work on. And he wanted to take Moff Gideon for his word. Seemed like an honest man. He did seem sincere. The acting there was magnificent. I was hook, line, and sinker till he took his first step to pick up the child, and Moff Gideon took that side step. And I was like, oh no. But so we've got that. Something came to mind that was something that we had learned. But anyway, so the battle begins, and I'm trying to. I know what I want to say. I'm trying to wrap my brain around it here for a second. So
But
the battle.
if you want to think about it for a second, what I wanted to say that I
Yeah, go
never
right
for
ahead.
a second thought that he was sincere. I knew for certain he was going to stab him in the back, and he tries to, literally and figuratively.
Literally tries to. Yeah.
And you're right about the acting is exquisite. I mean, he's incredible. As but I felt very strongly that this was a trick. It was, and I was pleasantly surprised with how capable of a fighter Moff Gideon was, because I sort of thought,
Yes, me too.
in the beginning in chapter 8, he blows up part of the E-web and it causes Din Djarin to almost die because of the explosion and the shrapnel, not because of their one-on-one combat. So to see that kind of fight in him, and it was very aggressive. Obviously, there was zero training with the Force, and I think that's obvious. I think we knew that before we even started this episode. But it was just all very aggressive and animalistic and piling on with veracity and brutality. And Din Djarin's got a lot going on in his brain. He eventually wins, which, ironically causes some more problems, I guess. But it is very compelling to see that kind of one-on-one fight. I really like seeing the fight choreography of this show. But to see a Darksaber against a Mandalorian, and I had kind of forgotten about that spear. So once he pulled it out, I felt a little better. I did think it was cool that as the Darksaber scrapes up and down that Beskar spear, that it gets molten hot for a while and then it cools down quickly. That kind of also sort of personifies the danger and the anger that's going on. Did you think of what you wanted to say?
That's what I was going to talk about, was how that saber really it almost changes the properties of the Beskar, which we didn't really see in his armor, but the armor bounces, the sabers bounce off from Ahsoka's to the black saber, bounces off his armor. But when it takes hold, and I think one of the most dramatic parts of that fight is when the black saber is in the wall and they're pushing, Moff Gideon's pushing Din Djarin along, and the spear has it, but it's pushing down through the wall, and the wall was like cutting and burning behind it. Oh my gosh, that was so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a little surprised at how capable he was with that, as a I don't want to call him a warrior, but how capable he was in the fight as well. Because, like you said, Cory, I've never felt that he was a coward, but he has always covered himself with something else, either a garrison of troops, the rapid fire gun that Dan, you just mentioned. I can't remember the name of.
Yeah.
Yes, the E-web to the Dark Troopers. It's always compensating for something in that. But yeah, with the saber. The other thing I thought was really interesting about this is that I really liked was when he said, "Let's start off by just assuming that I know everything," which he did. He did know everything.
He did.
Everything cleared down to and we'll get to this, I'm sure. I don't want to dive into it, but everything cleared down to the lore of the sword.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a guy he's almost as conniving as Thrawn in using knowledge.
See, he is former ISB. So, I mean, that intelligence aspect is already sort of built into his DNA. And that's one of the reasons why I wasn't surprised at how good of a fighter he was. And I think, I certainly don't think of him as a coward. I don't think that either of you are saying that either. But to me, General Grievous is a bad guy that is willing to run away and not get his hands dirty unless he has to. Mostly because he knows that he's sort of overmatched. But I feel like Moff Gideon would fight anybody. He's just too smart. He knows, to be angry is easy, and you only fight when you need to. Why else when you can use all these other people? I mean, he clearly doesn't respect life if he's killing his own agents all the time because they frustrate him, a la Darth Vader. So he doesn't respect life, and he has no problem taking it. So I think that's the most dangerous kind of person to combat against. But then we get something really ironic, which was a really nice twist that has not been resolved. And that is the fact that they go onto the bridge. Moff Gideon is really kind of pleasantly surprised that his life hasn't been taken, not because he was feared for it, but because he wants to see what's going to happen. That's, to me, making him very dangerous. So then we find out, long story short, I don't want to summarize everything because people have seen it, obviously, repeatedly. But what it comes down to is this. Din Djarin doesn't know anything about the story of the Darksaber. Most people don't. He's like, all right, I yield. Here you go. Take it. I want the child. I want the kid. I don't care. Here you go. But then Moff Gideon smiles, and his lip is bleeding from the fight, but it almost makes him kind of look vampiric with the blood coating his lips. And he says, "You know what? She's not going to take it. That sword doesn't have power. It's the story. It's the story that has the power." Cory, what in the heck is going on? What are we going to do with this?
I loved this little twist in the story, because I think this might have been part of his plan. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but like maybe he was hoping this would happen, right? If I can't beat the Mandalorian, I hope he beats me, so that Bo-Katan can't have the Darksaber. You know, it's almost like his backup plan. So whether that was intended or not, but boy, what a cool sequence, right? Again, we see the Mandalorian kind of, I don't say it's out of his depth, but he's just never dealt with this before. He's coming in contact with a lot of new things this season. This is another thing that comes up, and you can see as he enters that command center in Bo-Katan's eye. If you watch her eyes, she goes right to the Darksaber, and she's like kind of like shocked he's holding it. She knows right away what's happened. She's like, and she even asked, like, "What just happened? Like, confirm what I'm thinking here, because this I'm almost furious about this, you know." Because that was, like you said, we said earlier, this was her one goal, was to get the Darksaber, and that's all she cares about. And now she can't have it. He can't just hand it over to her. She has to win it in single combat. And, you know, that just, again, puts another thread out there of what's going to happen after this episode. We don't know. So, again, I like this episode a lot, because it showed me a lot of what, you know, Din Djarin knows and doesn't know. How cruel and brutal Moff Gideon is. He's calculating. He's evil. I like that you said he's kind of like this. He's got this wry smile on his face with the blood coming down, and like just like vicious. Just like he's like, haha, I got you one more time. You know, he's just looking for, you know, to twist things up and get things, worse for the heroes here. So, seeing this exchange is really interesting, because it goes back into that lore of the Mandalorians and how they are intending to take Mandalore back and how that plays out. So I like to see this came up. This is an unending thread here, and it hopefully soaks into the next season. But this is interesting about what happens next with the Darksaber.
So the challenge, I think, for me is, see, I don't feel like the Mandalorian's over his head. I just think he does not care. He's above it to a degree. He doesn't have time for that kind of stuff. He wants to leave and just be with the child and to heck with everything else. He doesn't care. He's like almost the perfect dad in that regard. You know, he's not getting mixed up in drama. But it's more than drama. You're talking about the future of a planet that's clearly been devastated. You know, as Bo-Katan says early in the episode, you know, if we'd shown half that fight against the Empire, we wouldn't have lost our planet.
Yeah.
But Tom, if memory serves, and Cory, feel free to weigh in here too, of course, Sabine has the Darksaber, but doesn't she just turn it over to Bo-Katan and Rebels? Like, Bo-Katan doesn't beat her in a fight. Like, doesn't she just render that to Bo-Katan? Am I wrong?
That was just running through my head, and I want to. For some reason, I'm thinking, wasn't there some kind? Because it's the way in which she achieved it. Doesn't Sabine get it through dueling with?
She fights.
Fen Rao, or
Fen Rao. No, it's not Fen Rao. It's what is his name?
She wins it in that. But I was thinking that she was doing it as a proxy for some reason. I don't know.
I don't remember either. But what stands out for you? Cory addressed it really well, of course. But what stands out for you about this and sort of the challenges that it opens us up to here?
Well, what stood out to me was exactly what you said, Dan. Is that the Mandalorian just he really cared less. I really appreciated the way in which he just so matter of factly just sort of I can see it. and like tries to give it to her, but then again you come back to this concept of honor, and she doesn't even budge. She doesn't even pretend like she wants to take it, because she knows that she can't. And so during that moment, it was racing through my head of all the different ways. I almost thought that they were going to hand it right back to Moff Gideon and say, go at it, because they would all know that if the Mandalorian could beat him, surely she can beat him. Because I think you put Mandalorian and Bo-Katan in a duel, it's pretty even. And so I wondered if they would do that, but obviously it didn't go that way, because you had the other issue of something coming in, but when he came walking in, the doors open up and Moff Gideon's there, and I was like, here's our lone fighter who's taking care of all of the problems on his own. Not really. I mean, they had cleared the way, obviously, but so he achieves getting the child, he achieves securing the Darksaber, and he achieves at capturing Moff Gideon alive for Cara Dune. He took care of everybody's problems right there, and I was like, man, that really demonstrated to me like his ability to make things happen. We've talked several times throughout the season, he is not infallible. He gets beat up. He gets hammered around. He doesn't always have a perfect plan. But when it comes down to it, he will find a way. He's resourceful in that way. But I did like, and Cory, you mentioned this part as well, when they take the shot back to Bo-Katan and she takes a step forward toward the camera in the edge of the bridge, she tilts her head and she's looking like this. She has this incredulous look. All I could think was, nothing about the saber came to mind at that moment. All I thought was, oops, she wanted to capture him. I thought that's where he was going to be in trouble. It didn't even cross my mind anything about.
Well, she mentions that. She's like, as long as I take him, I don't care, dead or alive, as long as I face him. She mentions that in their plan. So that's what she had her mindset. She was ready to go.
So
I need to rewatch those episodes again, but I'm pretty positive that Bo-Katan said she wasn't worthy of it, but she eventually accepts her role as a leader because of something that Sabine says, and then Bo-Katan holds up the Darksaber and she's in charge of Mandalore. So I feel like there's precedence here. And look, Dave Filoni created all of these characters and helped create all of these characters, so he knows this lore better than I do. He made it up. So I'm sure that there's got to be a way to resolve it. I am not sure, but there's really no time there, because suddenly here comes a battalion of Dark Troopers, and the pacing of this is incredible. It felt like a horror movie slash the slow march to their deaths, because these things are coming in, they're walking in, they're smashing through, and Moff Gideon says in this wonderful moment, this wonderful bout of exposition, you had your hands full with one. You're a pretty tough guy, but now what are you gonna do with a whole battalion? Tell you what, everybody's gonna die except for me and the child. So let's go really, really quickly, because we're going so long. But let's just kind of quickly talk about the suspense of that moment. Or let's not talk about the home run just yet. Let's talk about the suspense of the pacing of that sequence. Tom.
It was terrifying. As you mentioned, it's a pseudo horror sequence where they come back in, and quite frankly, I thought Boba Fett was going to pick them all off. I forgot that he had bailed
away.
Yeah, that was part of the plan. And I even said to Kayla, I said, well, so much for those guys. Boba Fett's going to take care of them. But so when they came flying back in, it was pretty horrifying when they came up, and just there's something about I want to say animation of them. I don't know what it is, if it's CGI or what, but just it's kind of, it is horrifying. When they were looking at it reminded me of, I don't know if it's a horror sequence or an old Doctor Who with Daleks, but when they're watching them on those black and white monitors, and there's a one shot where they're coming toward the monitor, and then the second screen shows them going away from it. It's just like, holy cow, this is frightening. How are they going to get out of this? And I'm like, yeah, so we got the Quartet of Doom and you got all of this. And I thought maybe the child is going to step in, but the child is completely exhausted and wiped out. Clearly, when Din Djarin sets him down and says, I'll be back for you. And he pats him on the head, his ears just droop. So clearly he is spent. It seemed very hopeless.
Corey, you want to say anything about them real quick, or you?
Yeah, I agree with Tom. Them, punching the door down, and it's almost like a clock ticking down, right? Ticking down to their doom. And Moff Gideon explains, obviously, like you said, but it's just that this, like, what is going to happen right now? Like what's going? Because we already saw him, the blast balls bounce right off him. So it's going to be death. It's all they're they're dark troopers. They're looking to cause mayhem. So
Yeah.
I had no idea sitting there watching that, like what was going to happen next. What could possibly happen next?
Like the nice setup. Like the moment when Din Djarin is getting punched repeatedly by that one.
Yes.
Punching that door is you're just holding your breath. And I kept looking over at my son and looking at the screen, and your heart is pounding, and it's just this storytelling is so this is a master class in how to create a situation where your audience is breathless. There's so much anticipation. And then, guys, here come the goosebumps. You hear this alerts, and I'm thinking, thank goodness somebody's going to come. And I really thought, Ahsoka's probably going to show up. I hope Ahsoka's going to show up.
Yeah.
We need help, or Boba Fett, or somebody. And then, guys, and I'm just going to start with this.
Yep.
I see an X-Wing walk in. Or not walking, flying. And I
Fly
felt,
by.
I promise you for 5 minutes, I don't think I took a breath. I don't know how I'm still here to be able to do the show. Because I kept holding my breath, hoping against hope that what I was going to see was what I saw. So, guys, Luke Skywalker is in The Mandalorian. I could almost cry again. I want each of you to tell me how you felt. Not what happened. We know what happened. Tell me how you guys felt when Luke's stop at the part where he takes off his hood. Okay, let's not talk about what happened with Din Djarin and Grogu. That deserves its own separate conversation. It's more important, probably. But how did you feel, Cory, with this whole Luke thing?
Well, I mean, we see the X-Wing fly in, and like you said, something has to happen. And then, like you said, somebody had to come rescue them or something, and an X-Wing flies in. Well, what else we've seen X-Wings in? Well, we saw those X-Wing pilots fly in, and that was my first thought. I was like, oh, here comes Dave Filoni to save the day. And that wasn't the case. Well, he kind of does, really, I guess. But, and I thought, well, who else flies an X-Wing? That's what my kids were like, wait, an X-Wing. We're all trying to, we're sitting there thinking, who could this be? And they make a comm call out to, identify yourself. No identification. And you got to go right to it. It's got to be Luke. It's got to be Luke. But I thought my mind's spinning. I can't process it. You're right. It's almost like back to episode 7, seeing these main characters again. And maybe the moment of oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I can't believe he did this. And we see him deboard, and he's on the dark robes, and then we see the black or the green lightsaber, and I was like, "It's Luke. It's gotta be Luke. Who else has a green lightsaber?" I thought, well, I guess Ezra has a green lightsaber, but would be flying an X-Wing until we get more shots of it. The gloved hand, and I said, it's gotta be Luke. And my kids we're hooping and hollering. It is crazy town. We're going yes, and he is so fluid in his motions. And his going through these troopers and watching on the screen back and forth. And I can understand the camera angles are a little bit kind of not perfect or not dead on. This isn't something that's going to be, he's, I don't know what we're going to say. He's not having a lot of effort into this. It's almost it's just, he's not breaking a sweat in the sense of doing these actions. He's very composed. He's very in control. Very much. I mean, I even felt very Return of the Jedi when he enters Jabba the Hutt's palace for the first time, and he's very much in control of what he's doing, and it's so. Oh my gosh, like you said, Dan, it's almost like I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. But the fact that my kids got to experience with me, so I almost feel like I have to relive a whole movie sequence with my kids for the very first time again, and to get that expression and excitement until he gets up to the doors, and the doors open and he's revealed. But it is such a great moment, and the music again, like we said, Tom, the music in this whole episode is fantastic. But this is it's not like a heroic music. It's a little bit kind of edgy, kind of dark. He's going through these dark troopers very easily. But it's not like it's a Luke theme or a heroic theme. So I thought it was an interesting choice. So I loved this scene as well. And man, it was like heart stopping, Dan. Like you said, it was a great moment for this series, and a great moment. Like I said online, it's a great moment to be a Star Wars fan. It was just exhilarating and a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
I can't wait to share my thoughts. Tom, go ahead.
When that X-wing we get that quick glimpse of it flying into the bay, and my daughter was sitting on my left, and my left arm went out, and I grabbed her by the shoulder, and I shook her, and I said, "Oh!" I said, "That's not a Resistance X-wing. That's Red 5, Red 5." And she's like, "No." She goes, "Who is that? Who is that?" I said, "Well, let's wait and see." And oh my gosh! And then I picked up my eyeballs off the floor and put them back in my eye head. And oh my God, we were peeled. And I mean, our voices raised. I was like, "Oh yeah, oh!" I was going crazy. I don't know that I've gone crazy like this. Even when I saw Ahsoka,
Yes.
that was like big thing of the season at the point, but not like this. Not like this. I could not even believe for a minute that this would be a possibility. And so when that lands, and then Cory, like you said, several things clued me in that this is definitely Luke Skywalker. I mean, the green lightsaber, the gloved hand, all that you mentioned. But the thing that I pointed out as he was walking through, just dispatching those dark troopers, is I said, "Kaylee, look at his motion." I said, "That has to be Luke Skywalker, because that is a Jedi Knight." And I said, "There cannot possibly be very many Jedi Knights at this point." And I said, "He's just going." I said, "Compare it to Ahsoka. Ahsoka like comes and goes and like is violent with their lightsabers, and he is just like you said, Cory, in Jabba's palace. He just walks in, he does what he does. He does have that flash at the very end that is very Luke, where he crushes that one like a tin can at the very end, but he knows Vader. He knows he's at his destination, so he's like, "I'm gonna have a little fun with this one, just crush it for a moment." But I said, "Well, we haven't seen his face yet, but all signs point to Luke Skywalker. This is going to be great."
Whew. Man. So as I said earlier, when that alarm goes off, there's a ship coming. That sound, that signals almost a respite. It also raises a little bit more tension, because you think, well, what else is going to happen? Because they've already been treated to an episode for the ages, entertainment for the ages, Star Wars for the ages. And then someone in a cloak walks down the hallway. And I thought at that point, well, that looks like Ahsoka. And I was like, okay, cool. They're going to be saved. But that was about it. But I still felt a little breathless, because in my mind, like you said, Tom, that was a T-65 X-Wing. That looked like Luke Skywalker's X-Wing. But I tell you what, I didn't even let myself think the words Luke Skywalker. I just thought, oh no, I can't believe they're not going to do this. They're not going to do this. Is this going to happen? And then he walks in, or this cloaked figure walks in, lightsabers turn on, but because of the readout, the lightsaber is white, because it's a black and white screen. Genius. Because you still don't know. But we know what we want to happen. We know what we want to happen. And then when you start to let yourself think, you think, well, Mark Hamill's in his 70s, right? That can't happen. So then you let that go away. But then he starts fighting, or this character starts fighting, and you see the green lightsaber, and I think, oh my gosh. And he tosses that crate to the side and smashes that dark trooper. He's slicing through him, using the Force, throwing him around. Someone had emailed me and said, that to me, is that the dark side of the Force? And I said, no, because these are not organic. These are droids. He can go to town on these things. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And there's so much poise and grace and purpose. And I think the reason this is so exhilarating is because we saw how powerful the Mandalorian is for a year and a half, and how great of a fighter he is, and how deadly these things are, how dangerous they are. And Moff Gideon looks scared too.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. Why are all these dark troopers turning? Because in my mind, they're programmed to face the biggest threat. Well, okay. So then let's rewind a bit before the big reveal. You know, Grogu's on that seeing stone. He's sending out, we see this physical manifestation of the Force in blue energy waves sweeping up into the galaxy like a big signal. And so, you know, people have been saying, well, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? It's going to be Cal Kestis. It's going to be Ezra. It's going to be somebody we haven't heard of, blah, blah, blah. In my mind, what I thought originally, and I didn't let myself go through it because you guys know how much I hate to speculate and how much I hate spoilers because I end up being disappointed. And I don't like being disappointed when it comes to Star Wars. But in my mind's eye, I thought, there's only one. If Grogu is as powerful as we have been led to believe, there's only one Jedi Knight, Jedi Master out there that can answer this call, and that is Luke Skywalker. But I'll never get to see Luke in The Mandalorian. And then he walked through, and he did. When I saw his boots, that's when I knew. And then I see the belt, and I saw the lightsaber hilt, and that lightsaber hilt is unmistakable. And he takes off the cloak. And not only is it Luke Skywalker, but it's Mark Hamill. So here's something crazy that you guys don't know. All right, I'm going to try to find it. But in October, Steele Saunders, you know, of Steel Wars, he sent me a message and he said, hey, send me your craziest prediction about what's going to happen in season 2 of The Mandalorian. This was in mid-October. And on a whim, I emailed him and I said, just for fun, Mark Hamill's going to show up and they're going to use de-aging ILM technology and he's going to save the day and somehow help Grogu or the child in The Mandalorian. And he wrote back and he said, oh my gosh, if that happened, I would die. And it happened. It happened.
Yeah.
So when I finally knew it was Luke, I clapped and I clapped and I clapped and I put my hands in the air like I was praising the Lord and I screamed, it's Luke Skywalker. It's Luke Skywalker. And Mason looked at me like real serious. He goes, of course it is, Daddy. Like in his mind, well, of course it would be.
Right, of course it was.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. And I was crying. I was so happy. I was so taken up in this moment, guys. I don't remember entertainment hitting me that way. And the Lord knows how long. It just took my breath away. And I'm serious. 5 hours. I felt like I had so much sugar in Red Bull. I was just shaking with happiness because I couldn't believe it happened. All day people were texting me and calling me and sending me Facebook messages saying, you must be so happy. Guys, I have not been that happy with entertainment. That might have been the happiest moment I've had in 2020 that wasn't family related because I think I needed that exhale. My gosh, did I get it? I'm so happy. I can't even stand it. Oh my God.
I love it. I love it. It's not very often that you are like this with a story. I mean, I know you love all the stories, but this is like jubilant.
I don't give it a hyperbole. Yes, exactly. I don't give it a hyperbole. I want the story to be told. Oh my gosh. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this, and I will on Facebook Lives tomorrow for sure. But then they shift gears again. Luke, we find out it's Luke, and that whole thing, Cory, start to finish. Just walk us through it again, not a summary, but just tell us what you noticed, what you thought, how this impacted you, because it was very impactful.
Well, and I think they've done a good job of softening this blow through the other, with Ahsoka's sequence, and Din Djarin knew he'd have to hand off the child to another of his kind. And we see that sequence. We talked about that at length a little bit on our last, talk about Mandalorian, the Jedi, and his somberness of, okay, our kid, we're gonna, I'm gonna hand you off, and this is for real this time. And this is kind of a culmination of what we talked about, him revealing himself and taking off the helmet, and it just like this moment of I think we had said this, they're no longer, bounty hunter and child. This is father and son. To this end, and I think we had said that as a group last time we talked, and this is like I don't know what this feeling is like because I've never had to do this for my kids necessarily, but it is a striking moment as powerful as it is. Going from excitement seeing Luke and revealing himself to this tender moment of these two characters that we've grown to love through 2 seasons here, and seen them grow. It's very heartbreaking, I guess. It's not heartbreaking, but heartwarming, I guess, because this is what has to be done, right? Din Djarin knows it. Grogu kind of knows it, and he says, he says something that I think Luke says something to the effect of, he wants your permission, uh, and it's just like, wow. And what does he give as permission? He takes off his helmet, his most coveted thing he can do in front of someone. Like, it's almost like akin to kissing him on the face. I mean, as a child, as your child, as love goes, it's a tender exchange, and this is it for him. He's taking off his helmet, revealing himself, saying, "This is who I am, and I will see you again." Oh, did you go from excitement to almost, drowning in tears? My kids and I were, just it was a good moment, though. I don't want to say it was a bad moment. It was a good moment, and just knowing who Luke Skywalker is, it was such a great moment for Star Wars fans, I think, and good pacing, good story writing, and everything. So, wow, what an exchange. I really enjoyed the fact that, this was happening between these two characters, and we'll see what happens next, but wow, interesting. Loved it.
It was all of the above. Tom, I'm sure it was very emotional for you as well.
Oh my goodness. I can't even begin to tell you. So when this was happening, he's holding Grogu, and Grogu reaches out to the mask, and I was like, I said to Kayla, I said, he's gonna take his mask off, and she said, but he can't, and I said, just wait. And when he lifts it off, this is so a couple things raced through my mind just right away, and then I've thought more about it since then, but it happened right away for me because I thought, I've seen this before where a son takes a mask off of someone else, and I thought that person is standing in the room. The Jedi Master has done this before. And so why did Luke take Vader's helmet off? I mean, Vader asked him to, because he wanted to look at him with his own eyes. And so based on that, I thought at this moment, I said, why is he taking his helmet off? Is he taking his helmet off so that Grogu could see his face? Or is he taking his helmet off so that he could see Grogu with his own eyes? And it's been a question I've been pondering since that episode. And it's part of what kept the buzz alive for so long, because this was like the end of an amazing ride. We were talking about roller coasters last week at lunch, Dan, and this it couldn't have been a better time for us to talk about roller coasters, because that's what this episode did to me. Because I've gone through so many different emotions of capturing the villain and then being put in a predicament, and the action, and everything we've wanted, an amazing landing, and everything. And here I am at the end of the ride, just trying to stop myself. I'm like choking on myself, like trying not to cry out loud. I'm sitting here with my daughter and watching a silly show, and I don't want to completely break down. But what I said to her after the show, she's like, wow, you really had a hard time with that. I said, Kaylee, this is what I just witnessed is the next step of my fatherhood. And the next big step of me being a father is letting you go. And I said, how could he, not how could he do it, but how did he do that? I mean, he kept his composure. And I want to say that it seemed like he was going to have tears. But, oh my gosh, what an unbelievable, conclusion to the story. And it's when I thought, they have really stuck to this. They have stuck to the script of this is what was supposed to happen. And that's exactly what happened. We didn't get lost in Moff Gideon. We didn't get lost in the Saber. We didn't get lost in Dark Troopers. We didn't get lost in Mandalore. We didn't get lost in Ahsoka. This is what was supposed to happen. And I sat back And we just sat in silence as we watched the credits. And I don't want to give anything away because, Dan, it's your turn. But I said to Kaylee, I said, why aren't the credits going to the little box? Now I'll let you go, Dan. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
Disney Plus, the credits go to the little box. I just was like, this is strange. The credits aren't going to the little box. But go ahead, Dan. You share your fun moment.
There's so much to take away with this. I mean, every one of these sequences could be a show in and of itself. But when Din Djarin says he doesn't want to go with you, that I think we all know that he didn't really mean that. But he's having a hard time, and of course he's having a hard time. But then when Luke says, like you mentioned, Corey, Luke says he wants your permission. I felt like, now that is a passing of the torch. That is very, very, very different from what we know of the Jedi Order, where they don't abduct children, but they do say to the parents, we need to train your child to be in the Force. And whether or not the kids want to go or not is hard to say. I mean, I'm sure that they do, but they're also a little trepidatious. But Grogu, for the first time in this episode, I mean, when he's sitting there in the corner, he looks dejected. He looks weak. He could even be dying for all we know. And his ears are down and his posture. Again, the puppetry work is outstanding. Then when Luke shows up, one thing we haven't talked about is that Grogu is watching this and putting his hand on the monitor with this intense connection. He feels the Force through this man like nothing he's probably felt before. And the only, the sequences with Grogu and the eggs, when he puts his hand on those eggs, the cylinder, he's feeling them because I think he senses life. Well, Luke Skywalker is life, and of course, a midichlorian count can't even imagine, most likely. So then when he picks him up, and I really like that you said, does he want to see him with his own eyes, or does he want to do it because Grogu wants to see him with his actual face? I love that. I hadn't thought of the fact that he wants to see him with his own eyes before. And I'd seen other people talking online about the fact that reminded them of Luke and Vader at the end of Jedi. And I really like that. But what I think is the most important about this is the touch that Grogu has on the Mandalorian's face. And there are tears. Pedro Pascal is an insanely gifted actor. What a beautiful sequence of showing his emotion, putting his heart on his sleeve and on his face. Even like his visage, like he's more clean shaven. He's got shorter hair. He's more clean cut. He's taking care of himself since the last time he took off his helmet. He's taking care of himself differently internally underneath that armor than he has before. And when Grogu touches his face, it's this wonderful sign of intimacy that was so beautiful and so touching. And a lot of people have had very valid, credible reactions emotionally to this episode because it's bringing up things for them, or the emotion of losing your child or your child leaving you. I thought was just so profound and so beautiful and so heart-wrenching. And yet I felt at peace with it because you knew it was supposed to happen. Did I think it would happen so soon? No. Do I think this is going to be the way it is forever? I don't know that. And we'll talk about that at the end after we talk about the epilogue. So remind me of that if I don't bring it up again. But then it's very, very lovely because Luke looks, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, Luke Skywalker! Okay, sorry. Luke, Grogu, whole as we know, there's no more wonderful sight than to see a child open up its arms to you in total innocence and letting all semblance of anything other than welcomeness and love. And Luke lovingly picks Grogu up. And before that, though,
we say one thing.
R2-D2 rolls out.
Oh, yeah.
Wobbles, shakes, and that was almost as exhilarating as the X-Wing and Luke was so wonderful. And then to see R2 again was just like the cherry on top. And the fact that R2 was excited, and undoubtedly R2 was thinking, oh, it's just like a baby Yoda. And they look at each other, and that moment is going to melt even the iciest hearts of 2020. But Corey, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to mention that too. We haven't talked about R2 coming back. He wheels in around behind Luke, and Grogu kind of is somber. You can feel him. The somber is not fully sure, but it's this moment of connection piece. Oh, well, this is an interesting looking being, and it's just kind of cool to see that innocence exchange. This isn't someone who it reminds me of when R2 had so much trouble with Yoda when they first met. Like, R2 was kind of rolling his eyes. And, oh, this being going through all my my master's snacks and things and making a mess. Oh, come on, and he's beating him with a stick, And here it is again, and almost like R2D2 is kind of the adult now, and I'm, it's just like it's interesting to see this sequence because there's so much connection piece between Yoda and Luke. And Luke, just talking about you mentioned, Dan, I really interesting that you had that preconceived notion of Luke showing up in the de-aging process. And, I want to say just about that performance, it wasn't perfect, but I was okay with that. I was okay with it not being perfect and it just being what it was. And it felt okay to me. I don't expect another actor to fill those shoes. So I think they did a good job with that sequence. The only thing that bothered me the most was Luke never blinked. So I thought that was odd. But other than that, I was okay with the speech and everything. So
they made, there were cameos in the 70s. So just the fact that we got to see him, was it perfect? I mean, no. But it's the...
No, I'm not.
No, I know. How far they've come with CGI and the fact that they were able to gift, because this was a gift to get this like this. I never dreamed in my life we would see this. And I think, and maybe you want to clarify here, I'm not sure, but I don't think there was a moment of hesitation with Grogu. I think Grogu was very mature and poised, and this is my people. This is where I'm supposed to be. I belong. And I think he belongs with Mandalorian, of course, but just like you so astutely said, Tom, and Cory, I know you feel the same way, at some point we have to let go of our kids. And the Mandalorian just sort of accepted being a father, and then he loses his child. And gosh, if that isn't gut-wrenching, I don't know what is. But the fact, the way that it ends and it closes, like that elevator closes, boom, and it's just over. Woo! And is there anything else you guys want to say before we talk about the epilogue?
Well, I want to mention too that Din Djarin says, "I will see you again."
Yes.
So there's a little bit of hope there. I think that we'll hopefully see them reunite somehow. I don't know. I'm just going off what he said, but my hope is that they do reunite somehow, which would be just as exciting, I think.
I'm glad I don't have to tell that story because I want them to reunite super, super fiercely. I'm sort of torn, and I don't know how you feel too, Tom, but I'm torn because on the one hand, I desperately want them to be together and sort of have their own little ranch on Tatooine or somewhere and just grow up together. And, he can teach Grogu to play baseball or whatever. And, but there's also part of me that doesn't want to see Groot, as a teenager playing video games and being rude to Star-Lord. Like, I don't want to see teenage Grogu. I don't really want to see that. So I don't know. This is where I'm sort of in two places. One, if we never see the child in the Mandalorian again, as much as that would break my heart, I would be abusive because that is a good story. The emotions we all feel right now is because it's a good story, well told, right? But there's also the other part of me. I mean, let's be honest. Do you know how much money Disney makes from Grogu and the Mandalorian? Do you really think they're going to stop when they finally got something that all Star Wars fans can kind of hone in on? I can't imagine for the life of me that we've seen the end of them. I just can't. I really can't. But then again, how does that work into the narrative? Another thing I want to say, I know I'm throwing a lot out there. I know I've really taken a lot of everybody's time, but I think it's such a worthwhile episode that it deserves it. Luke Skywalker, Ben Solo was born 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So, and it's in the Star Wars book, kids, look it up. And so this means that when Grogu meets Luke, it's around the time when Ben Solo was born. So everyone's suddenly worrying about Kylo Ren and what that would mean. And is he in the temple with Luke and Grogu when all that happens in The Last Jedi? I have no idea. I do not think so. I have no inside knowledge of this. I have no clue about what is the reality of the situation. But let the story be told when it's ready to be told. Let it breathe, because I think we'll get our answers. But if you look at the timeline of stuff, I don't think there's anything that people have to worry about as far as that goes, as far as the fate of the child interacting with Kylo Ren. That's just my opinion. And I don't usually like to play that game, but I thought I wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, it's a good point. It did cross my mind, and there was a slight sadness when I had that thought, but then the timeline came to, and I came to peace with it because I thought about, they were still years away from that happening. So a lot can happen between Luke and Grogu before he starts creating,
Ben
or
doesn't start training until he's 12, and he's just
yeah.
an infant when Grogu meets Luke.
So you would add, you did cover a lot there. So the thing I'll address is I don't believe we'll see Grogu again, at least not in The Mandalorian. And I am 100% okay with that. And however, with that said, if for some reason there is a way to bring that story back, it will be absolutely magnificent. Okay. But I think that was said because what parent, what father wouldn't have hoped to see their child again?
That's right.
I mean, he's not going to say, "Well, so long, kid. Have a nice life." It's
Right.
So. Of course he's going to say that. And I don't know. Maybe they will see each other again. But I don't see how the Mandalorian's path would cross with the Jedi Master at this point in my mind. Like, he's not going to do like a visit. Hey, Luke, I'm going to swing by and see the kid. Do you mind? Yeah, I don't think that's. I just don't. I think that'd be too trivial. So it would have to be some magnificent purpose for that to happen. And so if it does, it's going to be great. But I don't know. I don't feel good that we're actually going to see Grogu again in The Mandalorian.
Wow, I'm a little surprised, but I like I said, I think that's very likely, and if that happens, I guess I'm at peace with that. I don't want it to happen, but the story was so well told that it deserves a nice ending like that.
It did. It was beautiful.
Cory?
Yeah, no, I think all in all, this episode was fantastic. It really did a great job of giving finality to the growth in these characters, and just a lot of plot points really wrapped up. And I think that's what I think we've talked about too. This whole episode, it really gave us so much to the fact that it didn't mess around. It wasn't pulling punches. It wasn't leaving things open. It wasn't like, oh, what about this? What about this? It was very, this is what's happening. I think, it didn't, I don't really feel like, one thing will happen or one thing won't happen. There's some loose threads, I think, for another season, but, we'll have to wait and see as far as that goes. But I feel very, at peace with this. It feels right. I think they did a great job of storytelling here and in connecting these characters and through some great moments. I almost like, I hate to see what happens next because it won't feel the same, right? Something has changed. So, I don't know. I guess we're just gonna have to wait it out and find out what happens next.
I might go so far as to say that this could be a perfect episode. I really do. I mean, the emotions, the build-up. But again, just like with all good things, it only works because of all the stuff that came before it. Because of George Lucas setting up us caring about Luke Skywalker, because of seeing what it means to be a Jedi Knight, because of seeing what sacrifice and loss means, to the emotional beats of Alderaan and seeing people that are a part of the Death Star and Alderaan, how that affects them, why it's important to see R2-D2, why it's important to see an X-Wing, what it means to let go and to join. I mean, you think about when Anakin leaves his mother, Shmi, in the Phantom Menace, compared to that didn't feel right. This did. This felt like the way to end it. But it wasn't the end, was it, guys? Let's take another break. We come back, we're going to talk about, well, something we did not expect. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
MEI and Mouse Fan Travel is your one-stop shop for your vacation needs and your plans to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or the cruise lines. Travel looks much different now than it did a couple of months ago, and with the opening of Walt Disney World and soon, hopefully, the opening of Disneyland, you need a place to go where you can trust, and they will help you figure out and navigate all the different circumstances and guidelines that Disney has put out for you. And I can say that we had our vacation modified, and as soon as dates were announced, MEI contacted me directly to help me reschedule, which is exactly what I was hoping to do. So if you are interested in rescheduling your vacation or want to try to plan a Walt Disney World, Disneyland vacation, or anywhere else you want to go on the planet, be sure to contact MEI and MouseFan Travel at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/MouseFanTravel. Their signature service and expert advice will help you maximize your vacation time and dollar, and they will help you figure out all the different changes and modifications going on at the Disney theme parks. They are amazing, and I can tell you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, the peace of mind that Becky Menken and the crew at MEI and MouseFan Travel have given me is invaluable. If you're interested at all, again, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/MouseFanTravel. So, as you mentioned this earlier, Tom, usually when it's over, we get the art, right?
Yes.
And the art, the concept of it, which the only time we haven't seen it. Just like when Rebels would suddenly do like the opening logo of Rebels, if either Rebels would be a different color, or there'd be no music, it would be different music. You knew it was a special episode. This, we didn't get a flashback to watch something else. It just stayed on there. The music was different. It wasn't that typical theme. It was like a slower, saddened version of the theme, because the last thing we saw was Pedro Pascal's sad eyes just looking hopelessly and lost, and your heart breaks for him because, and again, how great that we care so much about this character, which I know, Cory, is so deep in your heart. And so then it rolls, and we get this sequence where we're on Tatooine. We see something reminiscent of Return of the Jedi when Leia shows up as Boushh. There's mayhem, there's murder, there's the liberation of a Twi'lek, I guess a Twi'lek slave. I'm not sure if it was a Twi'lek, with Fennec Shand. And then, I don't know. I don't really want to summarize it again, but Tom, what did you think about this and in sort of the announcement at the end and just sort of overall beats emotionally with this thing?
Well, my first thought was Tatooine again.
Really?
Seriously, what I keep thinking, is there a Jedi temple there somewhere that we don't know about? Why is Tatooine the center of the universe or the galaxy? But it's fine. I'm not complaining. I just was like, holy cow, here we are again. And then Jabba's palace. And so, it made, as it was proceeding, it all kind of made sense. And, I did had a little texting conversation with our friend Andrew Harrison, who's a friend of CWK and a CWK Alliance member, and and so we did some talking through text on this ending, and what I sort of settled into was his question was, this seems out of character for Boba Fett. They'd established through the entire season that, he's a good guy. He wants to do the right thing. He's honorable and all of that. And and definitely I think that's a fair assessment, because it's pretty brutal. Walks in, point blank shoots Bib Fortuna, walks up, throws him on the ground, plops himself down. Kaylee and I sat there and we were like, whoa. It was one of those moments where I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. And when he sits down in that throne, the only thing I could think was there's something happening here. It takes me back to the story of how does he get out of the Sarlacc pit? And I wonder if there's something like they could have saved him, they could have rescued him or something. I'm speculating here, but it definitely, I don't think that it's not that he's not an honorable man, Boba Fett. He's just not a nice guy. No one said an honorable person has to be a nice person, and so he walks in and does this. And I have to be honest with you guys, when they put up the date and they said December 2021, I jumped off the couch and I said to Kaylee, I said, that's now, this is coming out this month. She goes, Dad, this is 2021. And you could probably see the gears moving in my head. And I sat down and I said, oh yeah. I seriously thought that this was 2021.
I think a lot of people would be envious you're able to move up past 2020 so easily.
Yeah,
right.
It totally took me by surprise that they even then I'm still like, this is a year away, and isn't that the release date of Mandalorian as well? Is December of 2021?
What Kathleen Kennedy said at the Disney investor meeting is the story continues in December 2021. Say what the story was, though.
Okay. All right. So anyway, it completely took me off guard. And I'm so impressed with myself to figure out something was up when the screen didn't go down to a little box. Okay. and I was noticing that there was no art, because I wanted to see the concept art of the troopers, and I wanted to see the concept art of Luke Skywalker. So that is how is how surprised I was, and B is the suddenness of his actions, and then C was the post conversation with Andrew about who is Boba Fett? Who is this guy? And so that I thought it was wow. It was what an eye opener.
Pretty cool that Bib Fortuna was played by Matt Wood, who's of course the voice of Grievous, does all the sound design. He also played Bib Fortuna in The Phantom Menace, so that's kind of fun. Cory, what do you think about all this? By the way, if you're a Boba Fett fan, you're in charge of the Boba Fett fan club. The last month has been the best month of your life. My goodness.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting because just because we were my kids and I woke up early to watch this. We usually stay there for the credits, and we were so floored by this episode. We were still talking about it. Luke Skywalker, R2, Darksaber, all these things. Oh, Grogu, all these things. And just kind of talking about it. It's just mellowing out, kind of just as the music played, and kept the credits were scrolling, and my daughter looks at me and she goes, geez, a lot of people make this movie. And she said show or movie or whatever she said. But I was just like, you're right. What a great effort they put into it. This is so cool, huh? And then it goes to the twin sons of Tatooine. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I was so caught off guard. I was like dumbfounded. I was like, I could have been a cartoon knocked over the head. Like, huh? Like, wait, what's happening? Like, did I just click on something? Did I start a new show? What happened? Because these new, these streaming services sometimes will start a new episode or something like that. And I was just like, I recognized it, and I realized, oh, that's Jabba Hutt's palace. And I realized, oh no, this is something else completely different. Like, what is this? And then, like you said, Fennec Shand comes in, blasts out some of the characters. Well, Fett comes walking down, takes out Bib Fortuna. Such a great Jedi. This whole episode was like a love letter to Return of the Jedi, right? So it was really cool. But then, he gets on that throne, and she sits up on the side of him and picks up a thing of blue milk or whatever it is, and like kind of just sets the scene. And I'm just like, oh, this is a great after credits scene. This is, you see after a Marvel movie or something, like, oh, cool, a fun little scene. Like where Boba Fett go, here he is, where he went, cool. And then the title comes up, the Book of Boba Fett, and I was like, what? I leapt out of off the couch. I go, what? And then it flashes up December 2021. I was like, what? So I had a very similar reaction that you did, Tom. And we're all going, what? Wait, what? And it almost was like this moment of like such great joy, because I feel like in our day-to-day life, things get so spoiled so quickly online or through a text. I mean, I guess not necessarily a text, but just through conversation. Hey, what about this happens? What if this happens? This was just a pure moment of just excitement. It made me feel like a kid watching a preview to a movie I've never seen before. Like, what is this? This is foreign. This is exciting. This is, something new. And I was excited to have it go through it this way. I didn't sit through a movie theater necessarily. It wasn't a trailer I saw online, just somebody had posted. It was like a very organic moment, and that's really hard to come by in these times, and especially with my kids. I usually show them the trailers. Hey guys, there's your trailer for this. Hey, there's your trailer for this. We got to sit there and experience this all together as a family, and it was such a great moment to be just a Star Wars family. And enjoy that. I mean, I'm excited for it. I don't know what it is the next chapter in the Mandalorian story or a spinoff. I don't know. it's really exciting. We speculate so much sometimes, and this was so covered up. I think so well done. My hat's off to everybody involved that we're keeping this under wraps. So, wow, what exhilarating moment, and something that's really going to live with me for a long time as a Star Wars fan as a great key moment.
Wow. I'm glad. I mean, a lot of people see this is again why I've been so insistent since day one that the show is spoiler and speculation free, because the joy of seeing that and seeing Luke in this episode is so wonderful and so joyous, and how rare to be surprised in this day and age, right? How rare. It's incredibly rare. Like, that is actually something that didn't leak. Thank goodness it didn't. I saw a lot of people, one of our good friends, he happened to go online and he saw the picture of Luke before he watched the episode. That stinks. I'm so glad that it wasn't spoiled for me. Did you guys know Ming-Na Wen, who plays Fennec Shand, is 57 years old?
What?
Yes.
Wow. What?
Insane. I'll have what she's having. I mean, God,
right.
Very impressive. She's awesome. So my reaction is, when over the credits for there, and I was just kind of sitting there with my jaw dropped, and Mason ran upstairs because he was going to go to school pretty soon. And also I saw the twin sons in Jabba's palace. I go, Mason. And he goes, pause it, Daddy, pause it. So I'm like, oh, of course I can pause it. So I pause it, he runs downstairs, we watch it. I see this happen. I see a rather portly Bib Fortuna is clearly given into his sloth and overeating, overindulging. It's heavy, and things have gone poorly for that area. Then, of course, we mentioned what happens. And then Fett takes the throne, sits on it very mafia gangster style, and Fennec Shand grabs some blue concoction and drinks it like a pirate. And they sit there, and he poses and poses, and all of a sudden, the Book of Boba Fett, December 2021. So I thought, what's going on? Don't get me wrong. I think it's cool. I didn't want Boba Fett's story to be over because I grew to like him because of this series. I mean, because of this last couple episodes, I've been very clear about that. But for him to want, I mean, if he wants revenge on Jabba or something like that, even though he knows Jabba's dead, I don't know what that's about, and we'll figure that out eventually. But I thought, why does he want to sit on the throne? Does he want to be in charge of this mafia? Does he want to be in charge of this crime syndicate? I don't understand the logic there. I started to believe he was a man of honor. He did help the Mandalorian recover Grogu, but apparently there's more to the story. So I'm sort of almost off the Boba Fett train again, because I'm like, well, I don't think he's a good guy. And you mentioned earlier, one of you did, you can still be a man of honor, but not necessarily be a nice guy. He's clearly not a nice guy. Now, I was sort of hoping that while he wouldn't be like the Mandalorian per se, there is still a part of me that wanted him to be somewhat redeemable. But if you're just interested in being in charge of a crime syndicate, I find that boring. I don't know. Again, I will wait and see. I have nothing but faith in Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. People have asked me, hey, does this mean because it's called The Mandalorian that it's not always about Din Djarin, but maybe any Mandalorian? Does this mean that season 3 will only be about Boba Fett? I hope not. I think we're going to find out more of that pretty soon. And I know by the time people hear this, they'll have already seen Jon Favreau on Good Morning America. He's going to be interviewed exclusively on Sunday, December 21st. So hopefully we'll find out something there right now. I'm not sure, but I have a hard time believing that Din Djarin's story is over. Maybe we'll have 2 episodes concurrently. I really have no idea. I don't speculate, but it does give me a pause to wonder where they're going to go. I can't imagine they will abandon The Mandalorian because it's so popular and so beloved, but I guess we'll find out, won't we?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So, guys, any closing thoughts before we wrap this beautiful, lengthy episode up?
Oh, I feel like this series has been so good for Star Wars fans and casual fans. I've had more good conversations through this Mandalorian series than almost any Star Wars in general. It's usually like a debate, something up for debate, right? But I always feel like this series is something you can sit down and watch and enjoy. and not necessarily getting the big details of things, and just have a good time and enjoy the big moments. And I've got a friend of mine who is not a big Star Wars fan, who's been watching with his family and his wife, and just, he comes to me with some questions and stuff, but nothing serious. But it's nice to see through his eyes, and not get caught up in, say, the spoilers and things. He doesn't know. He knew it was Luke. It's just interesting to see his perspective. And I think that's what's so good about this series, is it's brought such a connection to fans and Star Wars back together, and kind of grown the fandom through Disney Plus. And I'm excited to see where they go with everything else and how everything is going to kind of flesh out as far as what we've seen, proposed for Star Wars and Disney Plus. But wow, anything can happen now. So I'm excited to see what they do with these other series and whatnot. So I truly hope that they do a third season of Mandalorian, because I'd love to see how the rest of that story plays out, and whatever might come next. So I'm ready for December 2021.
Yeah, no kidding. Tom, any last minute thoughts on this?
Yeah, just Cory, you pretty much said it. I mean, a season 3 would be great. We'll just have to wait and see what 1 year from now brings. I also say that, I totally agree. This Mandalorian is being discussed with people who are casual fans of Star Wars, all the way to people who are just curiosity seekers. And I just think that's so wonderful for the franchise. I think it's so wonderful that they are experiencing an amazing and sincere and important story of the Star Wars galaxy, which is something that, I wasn't sure what to expect when The Mandalorian came about. And I wasn't sure if it's just going to be a tip of the hat to fans of Star Wars. Here's a great Star Wars story we're going to share with you. But this is more than that in my eyes. And to just summarize on this particular episode, I challenge you guys, change my mind, A+. And you did. Dan, I'm leaning your way, and I'm going to stick plus after that, because I am kind of with you. I don't know what a perfect episode looks like, but if I were to have to put my finger on one, I'm with you. This is it.
Let's take one more quick break and then give our final thoughts on this epic episode, The Rescue. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is...
As we near the end of the show today, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to have a cup of coffee with me, and for helping to spread the word about our Star Wars family we've got here at Coffee with Kenobi. Be sure to tune in Monday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/live or www.facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, and have a cup of coffee, tea, or any beverage of your choosing with me as we continue the conversation. To join us in the CWK Cafe, which is our Facebook group, and share your Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions in a family-friendly, spoiler-free place that is also drama-free, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/community and be part of the conversation, talk about this week's show, or just talk about some Star Wars. We have a lot of fun, and you'll make some new friends, as well as catch up with longtime friends along the way. I also want to thank all of the new and longtime members of the CWK Alliance and let you know how much I appreciate your help and encouragement. I really appreciate our CWK Alliance members: Carol Cantwell, James Kersey, Greg Hargrove, Cato McNichol, Mary Purdue, Terry King, Smooth Rivera, JC Poe, Ed Kimoto, Robert Avila, Dustin Mills, Chelsea Sansbury, Tyler Pompa, Hannah, Alex Procasio, Ian Thompson, David Nicely, Simbot Deptridarian, Christine Turk, Ross Halliban, Kurt McQuellan, Dan Ream, Colby Mead, Brian Harding, Frank Mulder, Blake Weaver, Chris Metz, LJ Souter, Chris Skavarka, Jeff Ellis, Yancey Evans, Daz Davies, Susan Gray, Thea Selby, Christian Dale, Brian McKinney, Jim Capron, Connie Shee, Jared Cantor, Jason Hall, Eric Struthers, Greg McLaughlin, Aaron Harris, Mark Suter, Angela Sauce, and Dennis Keithley. If you want to join the CWK Alliance, go to www.cwkalliance.com and sign up today. Not only will you help out Coffee with Kenobi, but you also get access to CWK Pour-Over, the exclusive weekly podcast not heard anywhere else. It's a great way to support and help out the show, and 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital to support the incredibly important work they are doing to help these brave children and their families. Plus, contributors at the CWK All-Star level can watch a video podcast of CWK Pour-Over hosted by me, Tom Gross, and Cory Clubb. Feel free to reach out anytime if you have any questions. In addition to being part of the community on Facebook, please don't forget to visit our website at www.coffeewithkenobi.com for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, videos, and so much more. If you have a question for me or just want to share your thoughts on the air, feel free to email me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com and I'll share them on the show. You can also connect with me on Twitter at Mr. Zaire, MRZEHR, or on Instagram at DanZareCWK. There are also a lot more ways to connect with me and Coffee with Kenobi on social media. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi. Check us out on Pinterest or subscribe to our Coffee with Kenobi YouTube channel. On our YouTube channel, you can find Facebook Live video, different interviews throughout the years, highlights of video coverage throughout the Coffee with Kenobi history, and the audio podcast itself. You can order my book, The Star Wars Book, which I co-wrote with Lucasfilm's Pablo Hidalgo and Cole Horton, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million, Walmart, or anywhere books are sold. You can also find my writing on Coffee with Kenobi's website, as well as StarWars.com, where I am an official blogger there, and on IGN, where I contribute occasionally to articles about Star Wars, as well as other popular culture topics. If you are considering starting a podcast or a blog, let me know how I can help you get started and make your creative vision a reality. Be sure to check out danzmedia.com and we can get the process started. I am also available to come to your school, conference, business, or organization to talk about how to tap into your strengths and help you bring out your very best. I want to inspire you to be inspired so you can take that first step into a larger world. Thanks as always to our Coffee with Kenobi sponsors, especially MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, our travel partner and your one-stop shop for all things Walt Disney World, Disneyland, the Disney Cruise Lines, or anywhere on the planet you want to go on your vacation. Please go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel to book your magical vacation and help support Coffee with Kenobi in the process. If you like the show, please tweet out that you're listening, share it on Facebook, or invite your friends and family to tune in and share a cup of coffee with us. And if the Force is especially with you, please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Google Podcasts. Every review makes a huge difference and helps to spread the word, and I can't thank you enough for your help, for your support, and your friendship. I love so much being a part of this wonderful Star Wars community, and I can't thank you enough for all that you do for me and Coffee with Kenobi. The only challenge, if I had to quibble, would be that just like this entire season, it plays better the first time because the surprise is such a key aspect of the enjoyment of the story. When you know what's coming, it's still, I mean, we watched it multiple times and the adrenaline and the excitement is still there, but it wears off more quickly because you still ultimately know what's going to happen. It doesn't take away from the power of the storytelling or the potency of it, but it does play better the first time through. Whether that's good or bad, I guess history will kind of let us be the judge of that. So, they did say before season 2 even aired that season 3 was already in production. So I don't think we have to worry about there being a season 3 of The Mandalorian, but what will it look like and when it will air? That's $1 million question. But I'm perfectly happy to wait. We got to wait 3 years for a movie. This kind of stuff is going to wet our Star Wars whistles for a very long time. Undoubtedly, people are going to want to continue the conversation with the two of you. And of course, you can find all three of us together on CWK Pour-Over each and every week, the exclusive weekly podcast for members of the CWK Alliance. If you want to join the CWK Alliance, well, that is, as I just said a little bit ago, is on our Patreon page, patreon.com/coffeewithkenobi or coffeewithkenobi.com/CWK Alliance. But we're not just a trio. We have our own little individual thoughts and different things we have going on in the world. Cory, let everybody know where they can find you and continue the conversation.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. If you want to tell me your thoughts on this episode and your excitement about the Book of Boba Fett, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Cory Clubb or email me, coryc@coffeewithkenobi.com.
.com. And Tom, what about you?
Yeah, reach out to me on Twitter at draftline, DRAFTLINE, or send me an email, tomg@coffeewithkenobi.com.
I love. Well, hey, thanks so much, everybody, for this blockbuster episode. This will probably be the last live episode for 2020, but we stretched it out into 2 episodes. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. Have a very safe, happy, and healthy new year, and we will see you in 2021. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here.